What the Republicans want to do with this committee, because we've had hearing after hearing after hearing about some bogus First Amendment violation by private companies, is they want to chill the government from actually interacting with the private companies as we come upon an election in November of 2024.
Chill the government? Oh my God, that's almost as crazy as what Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said in the arguments in front of the Supreme Court when she said to the Solicitor General from Louisiana, "Counselor, your position has the First Amendment hamstringing the government." This is not about. This is not about. I know the gentleman from New York is sharper than that.
Mr. Chairman, will you just yield quickly for a brief response?
It's my 5 minutes. No, it's my 5 minutes, and when I'm done with 5 minutes.
Okay, so you're going to attack me and not let me respond?
No, I said I know you're smarter.
You said my name.
I was complimenting the new.
You said my name. You said I know you're smarter than that, because I did not say anything about the First Amendment being used to chill the government. I said you in this committee are trying to chill government agencies. That's very different.
We're trying to protect the First Amendment. We're trying to protect the government from chilling American speech.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. A recent fiery exchange between New York Representative Dan Goldman and Ohio's Jim Jordan exposed the blatant disregard for truth within MAGA ranks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are seeing a pattern here now, a year and a half into this Congress, and we see it with the impeachment investigation, and we are seeing it starkly here. Let's make a lot of really bold allegations and then try to weave in and mislead some evidence to justify them. It certainly happened in the impeachment, and it is happening here again, because in order to, quote, coerce or censor, then that means, A, whoever the private company that receives the communication from the government must feel coerced and act on that information, and B, they would not have done that but for the government intervention. And the problem that we continue to have with my Republican colleagues is they can get the first thing, but they never get the second. That is why evidence is important, and that's why we rely on evidence.
As Dan Goldman dismantled Jordan's baseless accusations and held his feet to the fire over accusing him, but not allowing him a chance to respond, it became evident that MAGA's agenda was built on chaos, not facts. Refusing to be silenced, Goldman exposed the lies peddled by Jordan and his allies, shining a light on their disregard for truth. Recent condemnation from Representative Jerry Connelly underscored the chaos and deception synonymous with MAGA's agenda as well. Jordan took aim at Ketanji Brown Jackson in his response. Jordan has launched a relentless campaign to discredit Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson that has further exemplified MAGA's commitment to chaos over integrity.
And that is so consistent with all of the cherry picking of these emails that we have seen here today. I want to bring up another example, which was actually the focus of an entire hearing on this topic, but has not been mentioned once today. And that is the email from Clark Humphrey to Twitter related to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s tweet about blaming Hank Aaron's death on the COVID vaccine. And this was the center of the Republican case up until today, and now we're moving on. And I want to just stress why. Clark Humphrey wrote, "Wanted to flag the below tweet, and I'm wondering if we can get moving on the process for having it removed ASAP." Oh my goodness, coercion. That is censorship. It's some industrial complex. But you know what the problem was? It wasn't taken down. It wasn't taken down. Twitter received that email from the White House and did not act on it. Mr. Seligman, is there possible to have coercion when someone does not do what the other person asks?
No.
Despite being presented with clear evidence, Jordan persisted in his misguided attacks, revealing his allegiance to chaos over truth. Goldman's assessment that Jordan's claims of collusion were ludicrous echoed throughout the proceedings, highlighting MAGA's aversion to truth. Even when presented with facts, Jordan remained defiant, cementing his reputation as a purveyor of chaos and deceit. The exploitation of baseball Hall of Famer Hank Aaron's passing by anti-vaccine activists further showcased MAGA's dangerous disregard for the very truth they claim to defend. As officials swiftly debunked baseless claims linking Aaron's death to COVID-19 vaccine, it became clear that MAGA's agenda was rooted in disinformation.
So what is this all about? It's not actually about proving a First Amendment violation. What the Republicans want to do with this committee, because we've had hearing after hearing after hearing about some bogus First Amendment violation by private companies, is they want to chill the government from actually interacting with the private companies as we come upon an election in November of 2024. Russia interfered through social media in 2016. Russia tried to interfere in 2020, and you can bet Russia is trying to interfere in our election in 2024, and the only way that these social media companies can know that is by being provided with information from the United States government and their law enforcement investigations, and if that can't happen, then Donald Trump and these Republicans benefit because Russia will help them. That is why we hear, and that is why this is bogus. And I yield back.
Let's not forget that Jordan's track record as a legislator speaks volumes about his character. Focused more on sabotaging deals than forging them, he's earned a reputation for obstructionism rather than productivity. Even former colleagues like Charlie Dent and John Boehner have expressed disdain for Jordan, highlighting his penchant for disinformation over facts. From echoing baseless claims to election fraud to refusing to comply with subpoenas, Jordan consistently puts loyalty to Trump above the rule of law. His failed bid for House Speaker failing short of a significant margin is a testament to his lack of support and credibility among his own party members. Allegations of turning a blind eye to abuse while coaching wrestlers also added to a tarnished legacy. In the end, Jordan's legacy is one of failure and incompetence. With no significant legislative accomplishments and a reputation marred by allegations of misconduct, it's no surprise that his own party has abandoned him.
When the Biden administration told the American people that the virus didn't come from a lab, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Congressman, again, I can't speak to discussions that were had on that topic. It's been a couple of years, but again, generally...
The White House put pressure on us to censor the lab leak theory. This was something the White House cared about, so much so that Facebook was having, the top people at Facebook were having a group discussion on it. So I'm just asking, when they said that, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Congressman, I can't recall the specific example.
When the Biden administration said that masks work, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Again, Congressman, we were communicating the best research at the time, but I also believe that that was a discussion that began in the previous administration as well.
When the President of the United States, the previous president, suggested that perhaps the ingestion of bleach might cure COVID, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Congressman, I can't speak.
All right, got it.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and in the raucous arena of political theater, where egos clash and ideologies collide, there's seldom a dull moment.
And when he suggested perhaps sources of light in certain orifices of the body might also work, was that misinformation or disinformation?
I believe my understanding is that was medically inaccurate, yeah.
Recently, the spotlight fell on a showdown between two congressmen, Representatives Jerry Connelly and the notorious Jim Jordan.
And by the way, did that president get COVID?
Congressman, I recall that he did.
And did he get vaccinated?
Congressman, I believe that he did.
Yeah.
The stage was set when Connelly openly ridiculed Jordan's attempt to peddle misinformation about COVID-19. Jordan, a master of bluster and bullying tactics, found himself on the receiving end for once, caught red-handed in a web of deceit. It all began with the investigation into what Jordan labeled as a censorship scheme by the Biden administration. His target, White House staffers Rob Flaherty and Andy Slavitt, accused of pressuring social media platforms to silence dissenting voices.
when the White House said there was no such thing as natural immunity, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Again, Congressman, I am not a medical expert, and my job was to communicate on behalf of a team of medical experts.
So you weren't a medical expert, but you could suggest to Facebook that they needed to change their algorithm so that the American people would not see stuff from the Daily Wire. They'd only see stuff from the New York Times. You can do that, but you can't tell me if they were guessing or lying when they said something that was absolutely not true.
The stage was set with emails exchanged between Flaherty and Facebook, hinting at a concerted effort to combat COVID-19 misinformation. But Jordan saw something more sinister, a bid to manipulate public discourse and sway the upcoming election. His inquiry wasn't just about uncovering the truth, it was a vendetta fueled by past clashes with Flaherty and Slavitt. Their refusal to bend to his will likely fueled Jordan's determination to paint them as villains in this latest showdown. This wasn't just about policy or procedure, it was personal. As Jordan grilled Flaherty and Slavitt during the hearing, his disdain for them was palpable. He sought to undermine their credibility and cast doubt on their motives, painting them as coercive actors intent on stifling free speech. Representative Jerry Connelly's moment in the spotlight during the hearing was nothing short of unforgettable. With Jim Jordan's barrage of questions finally subsiding, Connelly seized the opportunity to inject a dose of sanity into the proceedings.
On the screen, as you can see, there was a theory floating around in social media in the first half of 2021 that said COVID vaccines cause humans to become magnetic. For example, one of these posts states the magnetism from the vaccine reportedly spreads throughout the body over time. And it shows pictures of a person's arm in the middle there with spoons attached to it from the magnetic attraction. Mr. Slavitt, is there any evidence at all that COVID vaccines caused human skin to become magnetic?
No, Congressman, not that I'm aware of.
So after I get the vaccine, I don't need to start holding forks and spoons in my arm to see if they stick.
Yeah, nothing that I'm aware of.
As Connelly addressed the panel, he wasted no time in confronting the absurdity head-on with a pointed inquiry about Donald Trump's infamous suggestions involving bleach and UV light. Connelly deftly exposed the absurdity of spreading dangerous misinformation.
This one says, the magnetic skin condition were emerging daily, and there were verified reports that whoever took the COVID vaccine was going to be magnetic. Mr. Slavitt, was this post accurate?
I don't believe so.
Many of us got the Moderna vaccine. Has it ever contained ingredients that are fatal or carcinogenic or that cause infertility or nerve, liver, or kidney damage that you know of?
I don't believe so. I think that vaccine's been given hundreds of millions of times in the United States. I'm not aware of it.
I just think it's important that when we use words like disinformation, misinformation, or hectoring of U.S. government officials who are trying to save lives, that we see the other side. There was a real problem. And people lost their lives because they believed that stuff. And it had no basis in scientific fact, and it jeopardized lives in the middle of a pandemic, the worst pandemic in over 100 years. I yield back.
Connelly didn't mince words when highlighting the real-world consequences of misinformation. From the tragic tales of people ingesting horse dewormer and losing their intestinal lining to the reality of lives lost due to vaccine hesitancy, Connelly made it clear that the stakes were too high to ignore. In the end, Connelly's message rang loud and clear. The battle against misinformation wasn't about stifling free speech. It was about safeguarding public health and saving lives. And in the moment, the panelists stood validated in their efforts to combat falsehoods and protect the vulnerable from the dangers of misinformation. In the aftermath of Representative Jerry Connelly's powerful statements, the glaring truth shone through. Jim Jordan and the MAGA faithful were not just wrong, they were recklessly ignorant, arrogantly spreading falsehoods that endangered lives. In the end, the verdict was clear. Jim Jordan and his merry band of nitwits may have thought they held the upper hand, but they were ultimately outmatched by the weight of evidence and reason. And as the dust settled on yet another political spectacle, one truth remained undeniable. Ignorance may be bliss for some, but it's a perilous path for us all, and that is an absolute fact.